would you like me to run it this morning for you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We have a couple guests with us today. Matt Horn is joining us. He's going to be talking about the Canandaigua Local Development Corporation. Thank you, Matt. And some projects in Uptown. Looks like we've got everyone who's probably going to be joining us, so we can go ahead and get started. I know Kim sent minutes from last time. It's the first time we've had minutes in a while. Thank you. And I see on the agenda we've got approval of that. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at those?
Yeah.
Okay. If anyone doesn't have comments on the minutes, can I get a motion to approve them?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Between me and Kim, we'll get those loaded on the website. It's going to be nice to have some notes again to go along with our recordings.
I did put the draft up there.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see we have privilege of the floor. I don't know if anyone has any questions or topics to bring up before we move on. No, okay. I think unless, I know we have a report of the development office. I know I don't have anything. I know Shauna probably doesn't want to do a whole lot of speaking today. She's feeling a little under the weather. So if that's okay with everyone, maybe we'll skip that. Okay. We have no official referrals. And it's the beginning of the year, so we don't have a whole lot of old business. So I know your time is precious, Matt, so we'll get right to it and let you tell us everything that's been going on with the LDC, and then we can also talk a little bit about Uptown, and perhaps Doug can help us with that.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. You know, I know I've told you, I know I tell you this every time I'm here, but it's genuine, and that is that it's, you know, this I feel like is one of the most important committees doing work in Canandaigua, certainly, and I think it's a model for how folks should treat their long range and comprehensive planning efforts. And I sing your praises everywhere I go, and I steal your ideas with every project I do, and try to weave them into the work that basically how to get these plants activated and moving. So thanks for the good work you're doing. I'll speak today. You know, even though I'm tagged to the LDC, I'm thankful to be supporting the town in a number of different roles. And so, for those of you who are familiar with the LDC, might hear me range out into other areas. That's not intended to blur the scope of the LDC, but just to kind of let you know everything that I'm working on in the town. So, as it relates to Uptown specifically, the LDC has established a set of priorities, a set of strategic priorities, and we just recently had a pretty significant turnover on the board, just some natural turnover associated with some elections. So Kathy Manicot's represented the town well, both as supervisor and as an LDC board member, our vice chair. And when she decided not to pursue another term, that made her seat vacant coming into the new year. And so we have Terry Fennelly, who last night was actually just elected or appointed deputy town supervisor. He also was elected chair of the Local Development Corporation. So Terry will be helping us to steer our efforts. The town is also represented by Andy Griffith, who was reappointed to the LDC board. And although he represents the Canandaigua Area Chamber of Commerce, another very significant presence in the town and in Uptown, in Randy Farnsworth, who was also appointed to the board. Those are all faces that will be very, very familiar to town folks, and I think I think you'll be represented really well by that group. In addition, Thomas Lyon, who represents the Canandaigua City Council, was appointed by that group to represent Canandaigua. So, and Thomas has a fantastic resume. He's currently a planner with Wayne County, so he's got strong credentials. He's an AICP certified planner, so he brings a good set of planning eyes to the LDC board. So it's exciting to have that new crew in place. I think some very strong voices for economic development, for planning, and particularly for focus in the Uptown. So as I was saying, we have these strategic priorities, and the last board put those in play. We're going to ask this incoming board to reaffirm those at their next meeting, but Uptown features prominently in those, and to that end, we spent a lot of time convening between Doug and I and Shauna and Sarah and others, just introducing people. I mean, I think you all probably know this, but a very small number of people own a very big piece of Uptown. So between 3 or 4 property owners, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres, which under the previous zoning meant something, but didn't mean quite as much as it does now under this Uptown form-based zoning approach. We're talking about multi-fold increase in economic opportunity in Uptown. And so Doug and I and Shauna and Sarah have been calling these folks together, just making sure that they know one another to understand kind of what the town's vision is for that area, but then B, who are your neighbors and where these parcels line up, where they're sitting next to each other, or where they're across the street from each other even, what each of these property owners' plans are to the degree that they have plans, what the opportunities are, even if they don't have a current plan for redevelopment, and just gathering all of that intelligence for our use, for the town's use and the LDC's use, but then also getting these folks familiar with one another, because it does represent a very significant opportunity. So that's been a big piece of the work. I mean, with 332 as a strategic focus area, we've started that effort to familiarize folks with the form-based code, to familiarize folks with one another and with the town's vision. You've seen one groundbreaking already at Canandaigua Crossing, which is a really neat development, and I think just a picture perfect look at what the town was after when they started talking about form-based code. A spectacular building with what appears to be a really cool tenant mix. If you're familiar with the property, Full Send, which is a sporting goods type of store, along with a restaurant, pub type of offering there in that facility. So that was the first one, and it was perfect timing. I mean, these things often come along and it feels serendipitous, but I can assure you that Doug and Shauna and a bunch of other folks had been working that development for a significant period of time. So that's first up, and we're evaluating, or the town's evaluating, development opportunities on a number of other parcels there that I think you'll see will get a much more intense use. I mean, the Canandaigua Crossings parcel is spectacular. It's a bit of a tighter parcel, great location, but across the street, we're talking about acres and acres and acres of property, which will likely lend itself to more of a mixed use look with some residential opportunities and some commercial and office opportunities. So I'd stay tuned for those. I know the town's getting some early proposals on that kind of stuff, but rest assured, the form-based code is being well received, and I think you're ready to see some pretty significant investment breaking loose up there. On the housing side, I have been working with Karen and others on affordable housing, on an affordable housing task force that the CIC chartered last year. We gave our report to the town board last night, We got some good feedback from those folks, and we're going to continue our work there. But I think specifically in Uptown, we've heard from people like Ryan Wallace, who developed his first projects in Geneva, a fully sustainable net zero carbon footprint housing option. And in Geneva, he looked at it from a single family perspective. He's moved on now to a multifamily perspective with an affordable bent. He's got some pretty significant funding from two sources. One is NYSERDA, who is excited to incentivize development like this, and another from a group called the Community Preservation Corporation, which is a nonprofit that finances affordable housing ventures. And so just by nature of the funding streams, Ryan's developments are going to be at least 51% affordable, in this case addressing 60% of area median income. And we've been showing him development opportunities in Uptown. And he likes Uptown for a lot of different reasons. But I use the phrase, the tumblers all kind of fall into place. The work that the town has done on zoning, on transportation, and on utilities, water, sewer, basically has put everything in place so that someone like Ryan can literally walk in and drop a project on a site and feel comfortable that he's got what he needs to make it move forward. So that's one piece of the affordable housing puzzle that we're exploring there. We've certainly had conversations with other folks who've got a different take, a different look, but that are still evaluating the affordable housing piece. And then on the infrastructure side, we got two things going on. One is the Local Development Corporation funded a wayfinding and parking study, which is fantastic because it stretches from Uptown, from the 332 corridor, right down through downtown and to the lakefront. So the idea is that as you're entering the Canandaigua market, you're going to have a single streamlined look, a single branded look moving from the town into the city, that people will feel that these areas are connected. And so new branding, new signage, and then evaluation of some parking issues. And the parking issues, we've kind of backburnered for a couple of months to let the tourism season get up and running so that we can get a better look at that. But we've retained Bergman Associates to do that work, and they're already moving down the road on the branding piece. We think we'll be able to release a draft of their initial concepts in the very near term. And then finally on infrastructure, the town board last night authorized my team to begin work on a submittal to the Transportation Improvement Plan, the New York State DOT's, they call it the TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, which is the state's 3-year capital plan. And they put out a call for proposals for transportation projects. And the town authorized us to submit a complete streets concept for North Road, which would enable us to address bike lanes, expanded sidewalks, pedestrian scaled street lighting, those kinds of things to support a more well-rounded connection there on North Road. So we're going to start that work now. We got a tight time frame to turn that around. It's just a couple of weeks. The application is due February 16th. But if we're approved, we'll find out in April if we're approved. That effectively takes that project and puts it on the state's 3-year capital funding plan. And then at some point in the next year or so, they would release funds for the town to start design and prepare to bid that project. So as usual in the town of Canandaigua, there's lots and lots going on, and I'm excited to be involved in that work, and you're benefiting from some really strong leadership in Doug and Shauna and Sarah.
Matt, I may have missed it. Did you mention the Beverage Trail? Can you just?
Oh, I did not. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. another one of the strategic priorities of the board was to develop a craft beverage trail. This was born of you might remember a year or so ago, there was an article that showcased that Canandaigua had the densest concentration of microbreweries, one of the densest concentrations of microbreweries in New York State. And evolving from that, we started to look at what else was going on in Canandaigua relative to the craft beverage movement. And you can see we've got a distillery that's come online. We've got the presence of some wineries. We certainly got ancillary or supportive industries like New York Kitchen and some really fantastic restaurants who feature focus on local craft beverages. So the LDC board has funded a concept development around a craft beverage trail that would market and feature those assets in a collective way, and work to create some tourism experiences that draw folks to Canandaigua for the craft beverage offerings that we have. We've got a draft report on that from a great firm in Geneva, 29 Design, Maureen Ballatori, whose team focuses wholly on food and ag type work. So she's put a draft plan together. John and Doug and I are reviewing that. We're gonna get that to the board this next meeting and let everybody start to unpack what 29's findings were in the hopes that we could put a branded effort together around a marketing initiative for craft beverage.
Are the LDC meetings, this is Karen, Matt, are the LDC meetings open to the public?
They certainly are, absolutely. I encourage everybody to go to the website. The LDC website is canandaiguameansbusiness.com. All the agendas, minutes, meeting announcements, all of that is right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're right now, because of the pandemic, we're broadcasting all of our meetings by Zoom. So if you're not able to attend in person, we meet in the room you're sitting in. If you're at Town Hall right now, we meet in the room you're sitting in, and certainly the public is welcome to attend there. But we're also broadcasting it by Zoom.
Thank you.
And the meetings are at 10 a.m. on the third Thursday of every month.
Got it.
A little bit going on.
Well,
We keep Matt busy.
I mean, it's really exciting, and it's a broad range of activities, and that's I think when it comes to economic development, that's really important. And I especially like the fact that we're supporting the beverage industry, not because I like craft beer, which I do, but because it's ag related, and I typically advocate for the ag related economic development things.
Yeah, the way these strategies shake out, particularly to the degree that there's a town focus, we're drawing this from the good work that you all are doing. Any of our strategic initiatives that focus on the town come straight from the comprehensive plan.
Really, a lot of those initiatives that are in the comprehensive plan come from all the time and effort spent by the residents and the volunteers of the different citizen groups to create all the specific planning documents. So like we're talking about the beverage trail, a lot of that, the basis for that was actually identified in the town's agriculture enhancement plan that was adopted in 2016. So we've continued to build on all those solid planning documents and elevating them to the next level. So that's what's exciting, really, is that planning in place first, and then we're taking action steps to build to those plans, to implement those plans. And then Matt goes out and talks to other municipalities, including, what was it, Hillsborough, Texas, I just saw, about how
yeah. and it takes a tremendous amount of patience, right? I mean, Doug was just describing 2016 to today. That 2016 ag plan, the work started on that 2 or 3 years ahead of that. So the ideas that crystallize in 2013 and 14 are being implemented in 2022. And in a lot of ways, there's temptation to rush it to market. And it turns out there are certainly crass words for it, but it turns out half-hearted, I'll say. I mean, you get a half-baked idea that's just mushy and it doesn't work. But when you work these strategic plans and you work them to fruition, you're going to end up with much more sustainable and repeatable success.
So a part of having an ag plan, you know that cheese goes really well with wine.
Yeah.
And it's not so bad with beer either, frankly. But have you explored any opportunities to have, what do they call cheeseries? No,
Dairies.
joint efforts. Like, I mean, I could envision a winery and a cheese showroom / tasting room next to it. Have you had that opportunity to explore anything like that?
We haven't gotten there yet, but I think it's a great idea, and just really, to your point, tying these ag pieces all together just makes so much sense, because those on the trail, those wineries and dairies are really close to one another, right? And so it makes all the sense in the world. I appreciate that thought.
Great example of that is
I'll
Miranda cheese.
I'll send them your way. If
Yeah,
cross
right.
something.
There is an existing
Yeah.
cheese trail in the Finger Lakes right now.
And I'm aware of that, but you know, why have a bunch of separate trails when you could have one and feature all of these Finger Lakes products?
Eat your heart out trail.
Yeah,
Do it all.
I mean, why waste my time where I have to go to 3 different places when I can go to one, frankly.
We have one of Upstate, Upstate is a dairy cooperative that certainly provides a lot of dairy related products for everything from whipped cream to ice cream to milk to cheese to everything else. And one of the largest dairy producers for, actually 2 of the largest dairy producers for Upstate are actually in Ontario County, with one being in Hopewell, Spring Hope, but the other being Pawpaw Farms, right around the corner here in the town of Canandaigua. So we're very fortunate to have those right here in our neighborhood.
Interesting.
Which eventually, I know we mentioned it before with the Beverage Trail, but maybe eventually there's a way to tie that in, because we specifically labeled it beverage instead of craft beverage, right? So whether that's milk or water, who knows, right? So.
Or cider. I know the
Star
Star
cider.
Cider's included.
We have Tuition Distilling in the town of Canandaigua. It's a distillery, so
yeah, it's just if we have this as part of our agricultural development, we should flaunt it. I appreciate what the LDC is doing, because I think that is flaunting it. And I know on my Ontario County board, we support things that are ag related, such as this. But I would like cheese with my wine.
You can put the city water fill station on it as a
There you
craft
go.
beverage.
Karen, if I remember correctly, the county actually has some loan funds dedicated to ag. Are those still around?
I believe that has all been used. There might be a nominal amount left. Not really enough to fund anything very large. I think maybe under 100,000.
We'd need less than that to get the trail stuff implemented, get the signage and marketing materials out. We'll take whatever you have left.
Why don't you call Sue and I mean, I'd love to hear this report at our county meeting. I think it'd be a great it would be a great time to present it, frankly.
Great. We'll get on your radar.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, not much going on with the LDC, right? I think one of the other things that we do need to do, and I know I had this conversation just recently with Matt, Terry, and Randy, we've got so many new members, as he was mentioning, even with Thomas coming on board, that I think we've got to also do some strategic realignment and prioritization of our own goals and that sort of thing. And certainly those meetings are all open to the public. So, you know, if anybody would like to participate or attend or even provide thoughts and comments, you know, please feel free to reach out to any of the board of directors.
You also mentioned transportation, Matt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what are you doing with transportation? Are you arranging more bus service? Are you arranging more parking lots? Have you, Doug told me that Bobby Palumbo is interested in a shuttle service, which I actually brought up, but something like that would be great for your Beverage trail, where people would not have to drive, but there would be a service available there. And I spoke once at a college in Pennsylvania that had a brewery trail. I can't remember where it was, but they had hop-on buses to go back and forth to go around to the different breweries. Have you investigated anything like that?
So couple of near-term things that we're doing relative to transportation are the complete streets work at North Road that we're trying to work towards. The town actually, this spurred the Uptown master plan, but the town put together an active transportation plan for Uptown, and then the city and the LDC funded this one in part with the Genesee Transportation Council, funded an active transportation plan for the lakefront, which really one of our strategic priorities is fixing 5 and 20 in Main Street. How do we really connect downtown and the lakefront?
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping to get there through some active transportation means, and we had retained Bergman to do that work for us, and so we're looking at it. We have been looking at it much more from a placemaking and active transportation consideration. I am familiar with the city's proposal and the mayor's priority to get a trolley service or a shuttle service put together, and he's doing it in a really smart way, like thinking about who benefits from it and drawing funding from there. So there is a federal funding proposal that's in. There was kind of this mad scramble after the most recent national elections where the return, the best I can describe it in my really cynical way, is like the return of pork barrel politics came flooding in for years and years. There were no member items to be found at the federal level. And most recently, these senators and legislators just started calling local governments and saying, send me all your projects. I'm going to have some member designated funds, which is a nice way of saying earmarks for local projects. And so the city did submit the trolley project, and that project did advance. Now, what's going to happen is ultimately that has to be shaken out in a federal budget bill. But it cleared the local legislator's desk. So it went to the local representative's desk, cleared that hurdle, and has moved on now into the budget process. But in addition to that funding, the mayor has also reached out to folks like the Sands family, New York Kitchen, and others to say, hey, this probably makes sense for your hotels and the restaurants to have this resource. The LDC, short of those active transportation efforts, and Doug always reminds me of something that I've missed, so it's possible that I'm not thinking about one, but short of those active transportation efforts, we have not paid specific focus to transportation.
Matt, would this trolley include Uptown or just downtown to the lake?
So, you know, particularly as Uptown builds out, I think it only makes sense to do it as one. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard you know, we put together what I think was a really fantastic downtown revitalization initiative application, which included uptown, downtown, and the lakefront in a single impact area with these 3 sub-districts. And Doug and I and John have talked about John Goodwin have talked about using that as a blueprint for our future strategies, right? Rather than just saying, we didn't get that grant, taking the planning work that went into that application and leveraging it. And so whether it's the trolley, wayfinding, these other things that we're working on, we want to make sure we're not losing the hard work that went into that. But yeah, to your question, Oksana, I would say once that's off the ground, or as the planning is coming together to get that off the ground, Uptown, it only makes sense for Uptown to be in that.
Yeah.
You could always start the trolley at Trolley Station.
That would make sense.
And Randy Farnsworth has drawn he's drawn a really neat connection, you know, understanding that historic Main Street corridor and you know, you just mentioned the trolley station and the orphanage, the county house, all those things, you know, as these historic elements that really end up as anchors in this unified district.
So this really brings to the surface that we need a brewery in Uptown, Doug?
We have one
We're
coming.
getting one.
You have one on,
It's going in the
tap.
new building. Yeah, we have one on tap. It's in the new building. It's going in Canandaigua Crossing.
it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is it a new one or an existing one that's relocating?
It's an expansion of an existing in Rochester, moving to Canandaigua also.
Great, great.
That's where you'll find me Friday afternoon. Matt will join me too.
You got it.
Yeah.
Because it's an Irish, so.
Oh, I like Irish.
Yeah.
They make great stouts and dark beers.
Well, Matt, this is a great report. And I keep thinking back when we first, in 2017, we started our concept mapping with the chamber and the city and the town. And through that, the LDC was developed, and now Uptown Master Plan and Form-Based Code, and it just sounds really great, everything that is happening. But as you said, everything does take time.
Yeah, sure does. And work, right? You all are doing it
And
every
work.
day. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and we didn't mention, but I think that there's another key piece specifically for the town of Canandaigua, more so than the LDC for Uptown, and that is that we created last, I think it was December, we created the Uptown Business Improvement District.
Yes.
And that really opens some avenues for some additional out-of-the-box way of funding improvements and doing some different things that otherwise we wouldn't have. One of the things that I know that we're working on right now is getting cost analysis done, for instance, for the Uptown Business Improvement District to take care of all of the sidewalk shoveling and plowing. We're getting some cost on equipment to be able to do that, so that, you know, I'm hoping that we can, as part of the 23 budget development process, that we'll be proposing that. So, you know, that's really going to open some new and innovative concepts for us that otherwise we didn't have before.
Well, that's one piece of it, but in my opinion, the biggest piece is making it more attractive
Sure.
to people
Absolutely.
entering the town of Canandaigua.
Right.
In which, you know,
Right.
I've
Right.
been moaned about for years at town board meetings.
Right.
because
So
It
there's
really is sad, and we need to pay more attention. to that.
there's a couple of steps with that. Obviously, the median, landscaping, that sort of stuff is something we'll work with DOT on, and that's something that the bid could take on. I would anticipate that'll also be part of the 23 budget. But Matt mentioned the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, the DRI grant application, and Matt, I don't know about you, but I felt like I learned some stuff as we went through that exercise, and we talked to some businesses about, you know, Matt mentioned the placemaking, the sense of place, and different ways we can do that and different things. One of the things that you know, we desperately need is we have to do something about the lights on 332. You drive through there at night. I believe I think off the top of my head, Jim would know this exactly, but I want to say there's give or take 80 light poles. And I think right now there's about 50 of them that are out. And they're either broken or the whole entire fixture has to be replaced, or almost all of them, the paint is peeling off of the fixture. It looks bad. But those were all dedicated to the town of Canandaigua. The town of Canandaigua accepted those when the 4-lane 332 piece was done. One of the other, planning pieces, and I was talking to Jim about even, and I know that Matt and I were in a meeting where somebody was talking about lighting and what a sense of placemaking you can utilize lighting, and even the modern street poles. They provide all kinds of things, like for instance, a lot of municipalities are using modern street lighting for Wi-Fi, to provide Wi-Fi. Or they could even monitor traffic conditions. They can monitor weather conditions and provide that type of data real time live. They can provide if there's parking places open or not. They can provide geocaching stuff. There's any number of different things that we could do. And I know one of the conversations that I was having with Jim was we were looking at some of those things and what it would take to just replace all those light poles. And you're probably talking realistically somewhere between $1 million, $2 million ballpark to do something like that. But that's pie in the sky ballpark, right? We have to get exact numbers. But one of the things that the Uptown bid gives us the ability to do is we could bond all that. The Uptown Business Improvement District could bond all that, take that into the debt service payment for the Uptown bid without impacting directly the general and highway fund budgets of the town of Canandaigua. And then the businesses that are in the Uptown bid, that are members of the Uptown bid, then pay the debt service on that, which equals, you're talking pennies essentially. And that would be a huge step, because then a lot of those lighting, those newer modern lighting things, poles and fixtures, they're programmable. So for instance, maybe at Christmas, they're red and green lights, or maybe at October, maybe they're just an example, maybe they're pink for any number of different things you could do with them, even like the accent lighting that's on them and all these things, plus providing the additional things like Wi-Fi and everything to the general public in Uptown. So those are the types of things where we're going to continue to have those conversations. I know I just was having a conversation with Terry, had asked me a question about that, and I said, we really are going to need to have here in the pretty near future, we're going to need the town board to sit maybe at the end of a town board meeting as the Uptown Business Improvement District Board, because we need to have some conversations as we look ahead. So, but that really does give us a lot more flexibility and a lot more opportunity as those supplemental services that we don't provide, on Coy Road, for instance, in the town of Canandaigua. So, lots going on.
We put one of those Wi-Fi light posts in the middle of Cheshire, maybe? Just one.
Put it on the corner of Lower Lane.
Yeah, there too. One on Laura Lane and then the other one right in the middle of Cheshire.
But as we really continue to work on Uptown and creating that sense of place, all that becomes important as you're talking about greater density. You're talking about the ability to provide things like Wi-Fi, to provide, good lighting. It's pretty dark in Uptown right now at night.
I noticed that last week when I was coming through there. Yes.
Even the sidewalks, even the side streets, Parkside Drive down to Blue Heron Park, as we talk about accent lighting, even in Blue Heron Park, interestingly enough, I've had this conversation a couple times now with Lindsay, as the Uptown Landing project develops, and we look at Blue Heron Park to complement similar styles to that whole project, we could make improvements as part of the Uptown bid, as opposed to utilizing park funds and those sorts of things. So there's any number of things that we can do. But, the other thing is, I heard Matt, as I was walking in, mention there's very few landowners in Uptown, and it seems like every day there's even fewer, because I keep getting calls from longtime landowners in Uptown that tell me that they're selling to some of the new folks that are getting involved in purchasing more and more land in Uptown to expand the footprint of their future developments and stuff. So it's very
Is that good or
fascinating.
bad?
It's good that we have people that are that excited that they're willing to spend that much money, because that's the other thing that I feel like we've seen. I think it's fair to say that we've seen an increase in the price per acre transactions since we've adopted form-based code.
Because it offers some more options.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know I put together, Peter, last name Supervisor Inglesby referenced in the meeting, but I had just put together a list of all the projects that either Shauna or I have been working on or talked about over the last even 120 days. And it's pretty phenomenal, the list of all the potential projects in Uptown.
You share that with me?
I sent it to all the town board members. You have that.
So is this new water district, is that critical to Uptown development in your opinion?
Mm-hmm. I think I'll defer to the town board on that one. Here's what I say. I live in that district. When I go to the faucet and turn it on, water comes out, no problem.
Well, that's always really good. Okay.
But we, as we're looking at new projects, I think some of you are very well aware. I mean, we've talked publicly about the aspects we can talk about. Project Kent, that's certainly a water usage operation that's looking to locate in Uptown. I think we have the capability to provide the service, the level of service that they need. The number one user of water in Uptown, well, really in that whole district is Pactiv, and number 3 is Acustos. And those are both businesses that are specifically right there in Uptown. So we're very fortunate. It's an interesting aspect in that Uptown has the industrial aspects just outside of the form-based code limits, but still in Uptown. We have the mixed use, obviously we have the airport and the other industrial pieces, but then we get into the traditional new footprint of the form-based code with Uptown, and you really got a mixed residential, commercial, retail, and even what some of the developers are talking about is flex space, and there's a need for flex space. So it really does provide a lot of opportunity.
Well, every time I go by there, I can see the opportunities. I just wish they would come forth a little quicker. Yeah.
They're coming forth pretty fast.
They probably can't buy pipes.
Well, and it's not because I'm old, I figure I won't outlive these, but it's because these new ideas that and new elements, I believe they're going to pique the interest of people. And when it comes to change, that's really what you need. You need an example of what change is going to do before you can get many people, and the people that count, interested in it. So
one of the things, and it's very interesting you said that, Karen, because you're absolutely right. In my mind, when I drive through Uptown, I already see some of the buildings, even though they're not there, but that's just the way I think. I think way out ahead, long-term type of planning. I think for the average person, the person, exactly what you described, once the Uptown or Canandaigua Crossing building goes up, that'll be a new main point where folks will see that and they'll get excited about that. But we're very fortunate that we have landowners and people that have been purchasing land in Uptown that really have been involved with us through the whole active transportation plan that we originally did in 2017, the UPWP, even before the form-based code, that they really bought in. I mean, that was really when the gentleman who's purchasing the land for Uptown Landing, that was really when he originally got involved. he got involved way back then in 2017. He came to some of the meetings. I met with him. He got excited. Very first thing is he went out and he bought all the buildings on Parkside Drive, the office buildings. Then the next piece of that was he purchased the property behind Blue Heron Park, and now he's purchasing additional land as he continues to develop his specific plan in keeping with that. But it was really, you know, and then you've got, you know, Randy Farnsworth that owns another large sections of property that he's doing the same thing. He's been involved. He was on that original project team in 2017 when we created that, and we hired Bergman and everything. And so those individuals, we're very fortunate that they have stayed with us and they're very engaged with us. And as more come online, I know Shauna just had a meeting with a gentleman that had come in to the town of Canandaigua even before we did the UPWP study in 2017, and he is looking to build upon that footprint and make it more in keeping with the Uptown feasibility study and all that. So we're very fortunate that a lot of these landowners are working with us. The same for the gentleman who's buying the driving range parcel. The same for, you know, the gentleman who's buying the Parkside Drive parcel. All those, they're really, I think, trying their best to bring forth a product that is in keeping with that plan and our vision for that.
And I hear you there. But in my mind, the critical elements right now are adjacent to 332, because that's where most of the people you're trying to encourage to accept a different element in the town of Canandaigua. That's where they spend most, that's where they drive. So there's this Canandaigua crossings, which I have really high hopes for. I'm really excited about that. What about the fire station? The old Canandaigua fire station there. What are the plans for that building?
Well, you know, the Uptown feasibility study, one of the options identified for that building was community center.
Okay, and that's where I'm going.
Yeah, that's in the plan. Obviously, right now it's still in use as fire station number 2 for, you know, the town of Canandaigua owns that building, that land, but that is very, actually, it's currently all, I think, part of the same parcel of Blue Heron Park, however that happened. But the Canandaigua Fire Department, City Fire Department, has a contract with us, and they're, you know, utilizing that facility currently.
And how long is that contract? When does that expire?
12/31/22.
So are there plans to do something with that building and move forward with the community center? Because I
Not
think,
immediately. No.
I think that could be a great attraction for frankly, affordable housing in that area.
Wouldn't we want a fire station with all the growth and
I
business?
can't understand you.
Wouldn't we want a fire station with all the growth and business we're planning to have in that area?
Well, they haven't seemed to think that it was critical. I mean, they man it.
It's staffed 24/7.
Well, from the city. The city.
But that's, we pay them to do that.
Yeah,
We have, our contract requires that. Our contract requires that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that they service the whole, the Canandaigua Fire Department from Station 2 services the whole north end of the town of Canandaigua. So, you know, I live just off of Town Line Road. It's Canandaigua City Fire Department that comes to my neighborhood, and they're responding from that fire department, from that fire station. Yeah. You know, they're the fastest. You know, we had a fire not too long ago on the north end of the town of Canandaigua, and it was the first unit arriving on scene from that station that actually was able to get the people out of the house. So and our fire study that we did jointly with the city and town calls for a fire station somewhere in Uptown. You could make an argument whether or not that's the right exact spot, but it's got to be there somewhere in Uptown.
So I am familiar with fire stations that also have community centers.
Sure.
So it doesn't really matter in my mind what it is. It matters in my mind how it's used. And I hear you with the fire coverage. But while it's not unsightly, it doesn't grab your eye either when you drive by there.
It's a 1980s building that's,
Yeah, right.
you know, that has different colored doors and any number of different things,
Right.
right?
But
It's not very visually appealing.
I mean, it's a great spot for a community center. Why can't we add on, do like the Cheshire Fire Department did? They have a wonderful room there. The Bristol Fire Department has a wonderful facility adjacent to their actual fire hall.
It's not that we can't add on, but we are limited on that particular parcel. That is a weird shaped parcel. It's at a triangle, and there literally are utilities on both sides of the building right up against the building. So expanding the footprint, basically, if you were standing in front of the building, either to the left or right becomes very challenging. Could a building be torn down and go up? Sure. Could it go deeper? Sure. I mean, there's any number of those different things that we could look at. I know that the gentleman who's doing Uptown Landing, he would also like to purchase it because he would like that to be the entranceway for, you know, the whole Uptown Landing project, right? But, you know, those are all things that at some point the town board is going to have to, you know, grapple with that and look at that for sure. But there also, you know, there's the need for fire coverage. I mean, I've often said, I think I've publicly said, I have no problem saying it here, I think the airport might be a better location for the fire station because of even the coverage for the airport and the fueling station, and the fire department is needing to respond to the airport. However, the fire chief has said to me that his concern is he would prefer to be on the east side of 332, even if it's not that location, on the east side of 332, maybe over closer to County Road 28 back in that area, for access to the north end of the city, you know, Canandaigua Classics, Canandaigua Academy, the VA, that whole area. So those are all types of things that are going to need to be evaluated, you know, but we're just not there right at this moment. There's no specific plan to do that right now.
Well, where I'm going with all of this is, yeah, of course, there's supposed to be this big, beautiful YMCA built there. But in that Uptown area, I believe we need a community center of sorts. And I believe it could be, if we had one, if we had a plan to have one, if it's in one of the old Parkside buildings, or whatever, it can be an attraction to affordable housing. And the reason I believe it needs to be there is because of the transportation issue that is aligned with affordable housing. We need to have a place where people can walk to, bike to, roller skate to, you know, whatever, but it needs to be accessible to a population that we have a team looking at housing and providing for. So that's where I'm going with all of that. And I really would love to see something in the works for it. This is CIC meeting.
Right.
The ideas are supposed to come out of here.
Absolutely. No, it's a great idea. There's, you know, that's certainly something, you know, we have our 5 strategic items for 2022. I'm just being honest, it's not one of those 5 strategic items for 2022. Maybe as part of the affordable housing, truthfully, maybe that's something you guys want to advocate for. I know Uptown Landing is planning to build 2 community centers. I did have a conversation with them as part of that project, seeing if get them to build one closer to the park and maybe dedicated to the town or something. I think it's a possibility, you know, that type of public-private partnership. I think we may have a better opportunity to go that route than just asking the town to construct a community center.
And I agree with that. You know, that's great to have someone else pay for it.
Right.
Absolutely agree. But and we just have to be able to show how important it is, because even the city doesn't have anything like that. I mean, fortunately, as a town, we have places like Onondaga Park, Outhouse Park, places where people can gather. But it'd be great if it could be on a walking trail. That would be really critical, in my opinion. It just,
Yeah,
it amazes me that the town, city of Canandaigua, the whole Canandaigua area doesn't have something available like that. And you know, frankly, I look at Henrietta, which has a remarkable community center within walking distance of many of the developments there.
I know it's not quote unquote in the Uptown proper identified area. However, as you mentioned, we've got the new YMCA being constructed on North Street next to the Civic Center. That also is the intersection of the Auburn Trail, Outhouse Park, Motion Junction, all that. Also, the town of Canandaigua does have land right there. If the town wanted to construct a community center, they could literally build a community center next to the Civic Center and have everything right there together and really become a recreation hub. You know, right there. It's still walking distance to Uptown or bike riding distance to Uptown.
And that could be a potential for what I'm thinking. What I'm also thinking is that the YMCA is not affordable. And so the people that we're looking to provide for would not be able to afford the YMCA.
Yeah. Matt, not trying to put you on the spot. I don't know how much
He had to leave.
So Matt and I have had conversations with individuals associated with the Y, and I know that they have a desire to continue to, how would I say it, make the Y a destination and an asset that everybody can use. You know, I don't know that anything has been determined in terms of price points and that sort of stuff, but you know, they do have a desire to even connect to trails, even with the new location. Matt and I have had a conversation specifically about a way to come down and connect to the future Auburn Trail and Outhouse Park, to connect to Motion Junction. They're very interested in those aspects, even connecting to potential additional ball fields in that area. So there's a desire, definitely. I think that more of those types of collaborative conversations can certainly be had.
Speak up to them about affordability. That's really important. Affordability and accessibility are two really critical items.
I know Shauna just mentioned in the chat that the YMCA apparently has some scholarships for families in needs that are really good. I'm not sure how far-reaching they are, but she just mentioned that. So they do have some.
Yeah, I know, but they're limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only a certain percentage of their population that gets scholarships.
Okay. We covered just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, Matt had to step away a few minutes ago. Yeah, I don't have anything to follow all that. One last thing about Uptown and form-based code is I know Oksana and I have had a couple conversations.
Excuse me.
Revisiting the final work that Bergman has been doing for us. You know, after they finished the form-based code, there was some of the other zoning work, and we had a meeting last fall, and we're looking to reconnect with them and finish up and tie up any loose ends with that. Nothing was adopted yet, but I think they have a draft for us. We just are trying to connect with them and get that finalized. So
Sarah, they do have a draft, and I talked to them last week about it, so I'll touch base with you on that.
okay, thanks. Good.
Yep.
Yes, I'm sorry. Shauna was working on that too. I just talked to Oksana about it this morning though, so that's what I was thinking.
I actually have an email I'll forward to you, Sarah, to get you in the loop with that.
Perfect.
Chuck has to leave.
I think that probably wraps it up. Did anyone else have any questions, comments?
No, this was a great report from Matt and
Yeah.
Doug.
All right, Shauna, if you're in agreement, I suppose we can probably wrap it up. It's about 10. I don't think we've got anything else.
Thank you, Sarah, for taking the lead.
You're welcome. Hope you get to feeling better soon.
Yeah.
Our next meeting is February 15th. I think since we switched the topics, that's probably the one. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that one was going to be conservation.
It is, yes, yes.
Which means, Doug, you and I have to have some conversations before that.
You at 9 a.m. here.
Yes. Yeah.
Got a scoop.
Take care. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Adeline.
Bye.
Bye.